Hello and welcome back. My name's Crowley. Right, all that is in this video today is my own thoughts and opinions, my own personal thoughts and opinions, more like my own conspiracy theories. I am going to be talking about a few different things at once, well, not at once, that'd be really weird. We'll be talking a few different things in this video. So I'm going to start it off with, this is me just ranting and raving and moaning about the system. Pretty much all it is me bitching and moaning. I'm going to be doing a video on a gentleman called Bryan. He's the suspect for the Idaho 4 killings, slayings, sorry. He's suspect for the Idaho 4 slayings, and I'm going to do a full video on that one. It seems very odd to me because the only major bit of evidence they have isn't actually going to be submitted, I don't believe, and it's DNA, touch DNA on a knife sheath. They've stated that that's his knife sheath, or they're trying to imply it's his knife sheath, but it's never actually been stated that it's his knife sheath. There's no knife involved in it yet, neither that we know of. The information that's been put out to the public is very shady and very off. Just doesn't seem right in the slightest. And it just seems that he's not getting a fair trial by media already, and I think that's why he doesn't want cameras in there, to be honest. But he has publicly been ripped apart and scrutinised, and he's a loner, so he doesn't really have many people to defend him. He has quite a few people who are willing to listen to his story though on social media. I listen to quite a lot of people talk about him. Harsh Reality, I watch him quite a bit, and he is very open-minded of everything. He does not say that he believes him. He doesn't say that he 100% disbelieves. He gives every option, in which way I like to look at things. People say I look at things a lot more like a solicitor or a barrister over here, or a lawyer overseas. I think that's because I can see both sides of an argument and listen to both sides without being a complete nut dick about it. But talking about trial by media, our Prince Andrew, if you don't know about him, he's the Queen's son. He's not the youngest son, but he is a golden child in regards to everybody thinks anyway. And he had a photo taken with a lady called Virginia Giuffre, or Roberts, or whatever her name is in that time. And I don't 100% believe her story. I don't. I'm so sorry. There's so many holes and flaws in it that I try and look at both sides, but the way I look at it, I feel like the conspiracy theory there is that there's blackmail going on. That's what JE was all about, was blackmail. He didn't do the main bad stuff that everyone, you know, thinks about. I mean, like those satanic kind of things and stuff like that. I think he observed and dabbled, as it were, but he procured and arranged, if that makes sense. But I don't think he actually was the main top guy, and that's why everyone was scared, because of what he could and couldn't say. I don't think he would have babbled, to be honest. I really don't think. I think he was one of those loyal workers for them. That's my man super happy right now. Yeah, I think he's one of those loyal workers. Just had a parcel delivered. I'm sorry, I live in real time with me. Yeah, I think Maxwell, she was roped into it, as it were, and she didn't have the best lifestyle to start with as it was. But Andrew, it's all been settled outside of court or inside court, whatever it is. But money has been given to Virginia to say, look, deal with. But the only crime that I could see being committed in that photo was that a girl who was of legal age of having sex was drinking illegally in a different country. That's the only thing that I can see wrong with that. There's no physical picture of him and her in the act, and I think that maybe she might have been in on that little blackmail thing because of all the stuff that she took with her when she ran away. And it just doesn't fit in properly in my mind. There's something just amiss. I'm not saying that the victims aren't there. What I'm saying is her story has holes in it, and I do think there's some sort of flaws, because in America you have programs like 16 and Pregnant, And those programs didn't go for just one season either. And then you glorify this because you carry it on as well. So those kids who are 16, you then follow on what happens to the kids as well, and then you probably, some of them had more kids as well on top of it. And it pretty much normalised, if you were in the 90s, early 2000s growing up and watching MTV, this was normal. It only seems like now that we look at girls as being these precious little angels at 16, 17. Whereas we really need to stop doing that. What we need to do is start educating our kids, because there are girls out there who are making the wrong choices, and they are then going to grow up and regret them choices, sometimes feel embarrassed by those choices. And Andrew has literally been ripped apart by media. I mean, I don't know whether it's because he is British, because he's part of the royal family, but he has literally been mocked on a public scale. He's been demoted on so many different things, as well as family have had to really think about the way they do things. I think he's dozy, is the politest way I can put it. I think he's dozy and he doesn't think before he acts, because he's been brought up silver spoon. But yeah, I think he was the scapegoat kind of thing. And I also think he's the kind of bloke who people would look at him and go, yeah, okay, we can use that to our advantage. And I do think he's been run amok of, as it were, which is sad, because you've got also the likes of Ashton and his wife, who are now defending their friend Danny Masterson. And yes, okay, they did it writing a letter to the judge and stating it's a character reference. There's quite a lot of debate out there that his character reference, well, their character references were written by a church instead. Either way, they'll have read over it and submitted it, but they were under the belief that it wasn't going to be subjected to the public, or the public wasn't going to know about it. Don't understand why, because you have shows like Criminal Minds, you've got shows like How to Get Away with Murder and CSI, you've got all these different types of shows which literally explain most of this stuff to you. Okay, in your head you expect everything to be done in 3 days because that's how they do it on the shows. But in real life, the law does still apply. And so sometimes they do try and keep it as true to fact as possible. So all these statements came out. They've released their video saying, woe me, you know, we didn't mean to do that to people, but supporting their friends still. And there's been more celebrities come out supporting Danny. And you're like that, well, I don't know if it's because of a church, but he's not getting publicly humiliated as much as Andrew. Now, whether that's because he's dozy or because he's got the church behind him, I don't know. Or maybe because, again, he's British. But he is not the smartest pencil, is our Andrew. And yes, he was seen with JE after he was convicted, whereas these people are standing behind their friend after being convicted and a nice long jail sentence to go along with it. So it worries the head every now and again, because it makes you think, well, why is it all right for one but not the other? I know that Danny is getting scrutinised over the internet about it, but not so much as Andrew. And talking of British, poor Andrew. Talking of British, Russell Brand has now been brought into the whole equation. It does seem to be like sex allegation after allegation with different celebrities, and I'm not saying that victims do not exist. This is not what I'm saying, because quite a lot of people might come at me in comments. I mean, if people actually do comment on my videos and saying, well, what you think, well, just talk to me and see whether you can change your mind. I'm fine with that. But with Russell Brand, I don't think that anybody was forced into anything, if that makes sense. Because I grew up in that kind of era, and I know some people who did sleep with him and who have stories about him, and none of them were malicious or in any way, shape or form not what they expected. I mean, they went in that knowing and expecting it. He had people who were like, look, if you have to work for him, we prefer lesbians or males kind of thing. If single female and you're wanting this job, then you're going to have to be prepared. He's A, B and C. He's, you know, he's a bit of a dick with women at times, especially when he's on the DRUGSs. And he was honest with that as well. But back in that kind of day, everybody was really, if you were invited to, because it wasn't kids, neither it was teenagers, as in of legal age upwards, and it was more of a kind of rock and roll kind of scene for young lasses. He was eccentric. I mean, geez, he did St. Trinian's. I mean, St. Trinian's was amazing, the original show. So to do to do films like that as well, it kind of carries into his character. Everyone knew what kind of character he was. Meaning, if you had a relationship with him, you went into that relationship knowing what kind of person he was. This woman who's come forward saying she was only 16, 17 at the time, she will have gone into that knowing what kind of person he was. Like early hours in the morning kind of thing. My stance on that whole 16 and pregnant kind of thing still goes. If you think that the kids are old enough to be 16, pregnant, and doing a TV show about it to then follow on life, then you're clearly acknowledging that they are responsible and old enough to make life choices too. And I do believe that people make some life choices when they were younger and they're embarrassed about it. They regret doing them. But does it mean to then drag it all up in a public scale kind of thing? And I think that's kind of what's happening with Russell Brand at the moment. It's more things that happened to us back then and we've come back around. Actually, that didn't seem right. But then you need to bring that up with him, if that makes sense. You need to talk to, if it was so much of a problem that you were so scared and petrified, you A, would have gone to the police, B, would have made a public scene about it with him, or again with papers and stuff at the time. Or if you've woken up and you've gone, you know what, I remember sleeping with him 12 years ago and he wasn't all that nice to me. I mean, I hear about stories about it now, but no, he wasn't all that nice to me then. You'd then contact him and say, look, when we banged back in X amount of times ago, I felt A, B and C, so can we talk about it, please? That's how you'd expect it to happen. And I think that's more how Russell nowadays would expect things to happen, especially when he was completely off his head most of the time as well. And he's very upfront and honest about it. But yeah, people who I know who have been in that circuit of celebrity liking, yeah, they've never really had a bad word to say about him. I'm not a big fan of his comedy. Sorry, I'm really not. I do find him funny, but I'm not a big fan of his stand-up kind of comedy. I like watching his videos every now and again on YouTube about spiritual kind of things, and what I like is the fact that he's very open and is willing to talk about subjects that other people aren't willing to talk about. And that, I think, is what's happening with Russell, is people are wanting to shut him up. And the best way to do that is to go around and gather as many stories as you can about a person. You aren't going to want the nice stories. You're going to ignore the good stories and go for the bad stories. You're going to go for the stories where, oh, he wasn't all that nice to me. What did he do? Oh, I did this. Right. Awesome. I mean, no, that's bad. We should really look into this and help you out. But in the background, that's awesome because we can get him to shut up about this, this, this and this. Because he is very publicly open with conspiracies and what's happening in the media, and to a lot of people it is pissing off a lot of people. So it does make you wonder what is actually happening out there, and I think we've just got to all be a bit more mindful and keep our eyes open and stop looking and agreeing with everything that the papers tell us. Because I think on platforms like this we have that opportunity to say, listen to our voices. We are the people who live in this world, not the people who run the world, but the people who live here and have to put up with everything that they decide to put in place. And I think we need to start making up our own decisions and minds on things and stop going with what everyone tells us to. But yeah, this is literally just me rambling. But yeah, I did try recording earlier, but my baby girl, my Purdy, she was bugging the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie. I'll probably put some extracts in that. I tried to sit down with her, but she just loves fusses. She's my baby. She's an XL Bully Cross Whippet, and she is deranged at times. She's completely a bullet up and down. She's not harmful. I know, because obviously XL bullies are in the news quite a lot at the moment, and she's not harmful. She's not anything like that. She is excited to see me when I get home. She will grab my wrist, my hand in her teeth, very nice and gentle, pull me into the house, and then she will make sure I unzip my top and then my coat, and then she will pull my coat off me. I will take my coat off and she'll drag me to where we put the coats up. I'll put my coat up and then she'll demand fusses. If I was blind, I'd know where she was at every single moment in my life. She lives with a cat, and the cat runs this house. The cat is our original dog. So yeah, my baby girl, she's awesome, and I am very sad about everything that's happening in the news at the moment with the XL bullies, because they're a lovely breed. Yes, I do think it is the owners over the breeds. Why do I think that? Because knives still exist. People own knives, and when somebody kills somebody with a knife, what happens to that knife is it goes into compound, or it ends up back on the streets to end up probably doing exactly the same thing again. And the person who had that knife, the person actually creating it as a weapon, then they're locked up for a couple of years. When it comes to an animal, that animal has been raised and beaten into a way that they've been made to think that they've got to live this way, or that they're petrified to their own lives if they don't do what their owner says, and they may end up getting killed by their owner. And I find that really, really pitiful and upsetting, because then that dog gets destroyed, gets killed, and the owner gets a ban, gets a fine, maybe a couple of months if they're lucky. They didn't kill anybody, the dog did it. And I find that really shocking, because I know XL bullies. One of my babies, she's an XL bully, not my personal, she's my friend's dog, and she's so gentle, and every single time I walk into the house I just run straight to her and give her big fusses and kisses and loves. Most people are scared of her because she's big, she's chunky. Yes, she's our Gloria. She's not called Gloria, but that's what we say when we see her, because she's just a baby. She's beautiful. So I'm going to end it on this because I've been rambling too much. Hopefully I'll have sorted everything out. I've not even sorted myself out today. I look a great mess. I've not had much sleep at all. The green screen, I'm not a huge fan of it, I'm not going to lie, so I'm probably just going to put my own background up again and stuff. I've had to do forward facing because I'm sat so close. But yeah, so hopefully next video I'll look a bit more presentable. Have a good one. Bye.